Hi, so I'm Alison and this is Terry, and together we are the Sky Whisperers. And today we're here for Astrology and Beyond, in which we talk to an eminent astrologer about their life and their astrology kind of life and everything that's kind of led up to that and goes beyond it as well. And we are absolutely delighted to welcome Frank Clifford, who probably doesn't even need any introduction, but head of the London School of Astrology and um, an absolute well-known name in every kind of branch of astrology. I think everyone will know who Frank is, and more recently, in charge of the Mountain Astrologer magazine, which is a really exciting new sort of development. So we'll definitely be wanting to hear more about that. But firstly, Terry, you had a question.
Yes, I think that welcome Frank once again, and that Frank is an astrologer, palmist. That we will come back just now that, and the lecturer, author, publisher, editor, and all beyond that. And I think we were discussing before we started talking, and I was saying that all the charity work, etc., you are doing, which is admirable. We can maybe call you even a philanthropist as well, because all the things that you are giving back to the community and to the society. But since we are in astrology and beyond, let's start from the beyond. Palmistry. When we say palmistry, what are you going to tell us about that?
About palmistry. Well, it's a subject that I've been studying. Well, first of all, hello, both of you. It's nice to meet you.
Thank you.
It's. I think we're going to have a fun three-way conversation. Palmistry came to me around the same time as astrology when I was about 16 or 17, and I just started reading books on astrology. And my dad went to see a hand reader, which is a
Wow.
very strange thing for my dad to have done, and he came home one day and said he had his hand read. It was very, very odd. So my mum and I decided, I think my sister as well maybe went, but we all decided to go to see this hand reader. And after my consultation with her, I really felt I want to do this. I want to add this to astrology. So I've always found that the two of them together are pretty unbeatable. They really do show, they tell the same story, but the chart tells the story of your potential. And we know that there's a chart for every moment. And we sometimes share a chart with a twin or somebody being born or a dog being born or somebody getting married at the same time as we're being born. So we share that moment. But with palmistry, it's your unique individual hand or hands.
Yeah.
So together, they just felt like a really good combination. The chart is this map of potential that we don't always get a chance to fulfill. People have very few opportunities in many parts of the world, and war, destruction, famine. There are lots of things that stop us from fulfilling what we astrologers look at when we discuss a chart and we think of all that beautiful potential and talent. And 80% of the world is fixated on just survival, not thinking
Yeah.
about manifesting their chart. But the hand shows you what you're doing with your life and what you're doing with your chart. So you can look at the chart and think, I wonder how they've done that. I wonder what's influenced them along the way. With the chart, we don't know whether they're king or pauper. You don't know. You need some background, you need some context. With the hand, it tells you it's like an aerial view over the map of your life and your personality. So together they're wonderful. And I look at the chart and think, oh, okay, so this is what they've done by looking at then looking at the hand. So together they're a great combo. Yeah.
Oh, that's quite interesting.
That's
I never thought about it like that.
fascinating.
I mean, it's in Turkey because it's very common. I don't know if you have been to Turkey before, etc. I'm originally from Istanbul, and it's like they catch you. Let me look at your hand, etc. It's like they look at looking at the hands, etc. But I never felt that there could be any combination or any connection between astrology and palmistry, and it's really quite interesting.
It's not as clear as you would hope. So somebody with a lot of fire in their chart, they may not have a fire type hand. Or you may find that if somebody's got a lot of fire, but they've got Saturn rising or Moon Saturn, they might have a very earthy Saturnian hand
Mm.
because that's the way they've developed. That's become the priority. So in a way, the hand shows you what they've taken from the chart, what they've used of it, and what they've developed. And the hand grows and develops. We know the chart is fixed, a fixed moment
Mhm.
in time. We can progress it, we can direct it, we can do all sorts of things to it, but it's still what it was from the moment of birth. But the hand changes, and you end up abusing your body or taking drugs or whatever it may be that affects your health. The hand will reflect that too over time. Not just the nails, not just, but actually the lines and the texture, the quality of the hand will reflect what you're doing in your life. So I call it the living hand because it's always reflecting a great mirror. But the chart has more detail.
Mhm.
We can go into layers of the chart. We can use asteroids and link them to famous people in our lives, well-known, important people in our lives. Uh, but the hand is really the essentials. It's small enough uh, to be portable and I guess big enough for us to see some detail. But the
Right.
chart gives you nuance and layers of detail that I think the palm doesn't have room for. Yeah.
Wow. So when you've got clients, do you ask them for a handprint as well, or is that part of what you offer on your
I used to. I used to.
Mm.
Nowadays, I see most people on Zoom, and
Right.
unless they ask for palmistry beforehand, I just tend to do the chart. There's
Mm.
enough in that hour, 15 minutes that I
Yeah.
give. There's enough to talk about.
Mm.
But sometimes they do ask. Sometimes they send a photograph. They even sometimes with lipstick or ink or they do, and they send that to me. Or I'll just say to them, as we're talking about that, can you just zoom your hand into the camera and I'll take a closer look at what you're talking about. The thing about palmistry, and it's something I often mention, when you do a class on palmistry, and I've taught it over the years, I haven't taught it for a few years, but when you do, you tend to get more men. Now we know with astrology, it can be 90% women in a class.
Yes.
Yeah. And when I ask why there are more men in palmistry, the men say to me, "Oh, well, it's real." They say
Yes.
like, "Oh, it's in your hand, and I use my hand, so it's not some women's magazine rubbish."
Mm.
They're talking to a man too, so they must realize that I don't see it like that. But it's interesting. You might get up to 40% in the class of men doing palmistry, but very few doing astrology. So that's always interesting to note and to see the differences there. But to me, just seeing clients, working with them, it just gives me an extra layer. But people worry about it. That's what I was going to say. People worry because it's in the hand.
Mm.
And you know, the idea that there could be something that shows death or tragedy. With the stars up there, out there, we don't have to worry too much. Some people worry more that there's a special bad mark on their hand. So there's a lot of I would say I call it rubbish associated with palm reading of
Right.
tragedy and murderers' thumbs and hangman's crosses and all sorts of names that came up um, uh, that that have created fear. And as you know, as astrologers and as a palmist as well, my my big thing is uh, to inspire people who come and see me,
Mm.
whether it's in a class or in a consultation, for them to feel like, okay, I've got choices, I've got a strategy now. I don't have to worry about this transit or this
Mm.
marking on my hand. It's there for me to navigate, to work with, to deal with. And so that's but you can't always get rid of that mindset from people.
Yeah.
They come with it, they're worried about it, they've read somewhere secretly, and they don't want to tell you that they've read that the Saturn in the eighth house means a lonely death or something nonsense like that, that's something
Mm.
written online. And astrologers often have to unpick that and give them, particularly as a teacher, you have to give them alternatives. But still, at the back of their mind often is that original negative interpretation they read years ago, or they were told by some unethical astrologer. And sadly, like any profession, there are lots of unethical people, or at least ones that have no idea the power of their words, of what
Yes.
they say and how they
Yeah,
put it.
exactly.
And that bothers me. And I'm always on the phone at least once a month. Somebody rings the school and says, "I've read something terrible. Can you help me?" And I do my best to try and tell them that this is somebody's interpretation of the symbols, and it's usually not well researched. Because as soon as you research something, you realize that if you've seen it one place, it's interesting, but
Mm,
if you see it in 10 places, all with the same placement, you can start to formulate an idea, an observation. But
yeah.
just one or two cases, it's a fluke, really, and you have to be super careful not to run with negative ideas in astrology or palmistry. That's a big thing for me to combat. And I know different cultures approach things in different ways. I've been to Turkey many times and taught over there for different schools and different people. And I go to China. I've not been to India yet to teach, but China and Japan and other places. And you always have to respect the culture they're coming from. And often it's
Mm,
traditional, or the role of the astrologer or palmist is one of a fortune teller.
yes.
And it's not for me to say that's not right. It's just not what I do. And I
Mhm.
think it can be done differently.
Yeah.
And I believe in empowering people to make good choices for their lives instead of sentencing them to some sort of prediction. So, anyway, that's my soapbox moment. I can sit down now. And
Thank you.
there we go. I was just talking and talking and talking. But yes, there we go.
Yes, no, that's
Mhm.
brilliant. That's really interesting.
Mhm.
And I think for me, it's always been the lifeline, in palmistry that people are like, oh, my lifeline. And no, that's it. But no, it's really interesting. And it's also fascinating what you say about men and the fact that it was your father who first went to the palmist. I've never seen anywhere that offers to teach it, but I'm sure, if ever I do, I'll definitely be
Yeah, I've got some
doing it.
days on it. I've done days, and we can get them from the LSA website. But there are some good people around. Johnny
Mm.
Fitcham is a great palmist that I recommend. He's taught
Oh
for
my
me over
goodness.
the years and written some great books. And there are a few scattered around. But I think a lot of astrologers come together at
Mm.
conferences and discuss ideas and
Mm.
argue about house systems and all sorts of other nonsense that people get upset about. But palmists, I think, literally have their head down. They're really
Right.
calm and they're less inclined to meet up. And over
Mm.
the years, I've created palmistry conferences where we're sharing and we're learning. Otherwise, I think these people would never be seen. They'd just be working,
Mm.
head down, looking at the hands all day. So I've learned a lot from other palmists, and there are some great people out there. We just have to find them. You have to get somebody recommended. Yeah.
And that is one of the things that's always struck me about your work, actually, and one of the things that you're clearly really good at. And I think you've said in lots of places that you're an Aries, Sun Aries. So, about getting things going and just making that leap and saying, right, I'm going to do this and leading from the front, I think. And, is that something that you really resonate with?
Oh, I do. I mean, without sounding too pretentious about it, as an Aries, and I'm a Sun opposite Uranus as well. So
Oh, wow.
when I began, living in London, you get access to some of the most, or you did have access to some of the most amazing astrological minds and voices.
Yeah.
So on a Saturday, I could go down to the CPA when it existed and see Liz
Mm.
Green. I could see Lynn Bell, Melanie Reinhardt. I could see amazing voices and learn from people.
Mm.
And I remember. So that's one point. Just being luckily somewhere where there are some really clever people doing some great work.
Yeah.
Um, and I remember sitting with Melanie and watching her work and being very ethical. If you go to her website, she's got pages of what she doesn't do, which always makes me laugh. It's like, I don't do this, I'm not predicting. And I often show students that and say, make it clear to people what you do and what you don't do, so people are not
Mm.
being expecting something else. So Melanie had or has this page, a very big page on her site. And I remember thinking, Ah, I there's a part of me that wants. I don't want to be a passive astrologer. And
Mhm.
I was watching Melanie, and I thought I need to be very ethical. I need to be careful what I say, not talk about illness, not talk about
Mhm.
things that will disturb or upset people. Not being a counselor as well, I have to be not qualified to talk about medicine, or I'm not a trained counselor. Um, and then a friend of mine, Lynn, she said to me once, "But you're a Sun Uranus, you're Sun in Aries, so part of the journey is to wake people up, to get people thinking in a different way. So find a way to give them options that it's not just a sort of passive, this is who you are and this is what and it is, but to be giving people options." So I sort of came to terms with the fact that I needed to be doing more than simply reflecting the chart to them,
Yeah.
not telling them what to do. Aries is very good at telling people what to do. But I'm very good at telling people what the options could be during that time and leaving it for them to decide. Yeah. Because we all know that we can talk about a transit in somebody's chart, and it promises or appears to promise all sorts of things. In
Yeah.
reality, it delivers nothing because the person hasn't engaged. They've been waiting around for this wonderful Jupiter transit and it hasn't come. And they're like, well, why didn't astrology work for me? And poor me. And maybe my Jupiter's bad, or, all sorts of things that people do. And in reality, it requires engagement. Brian Clark, one of my favorite astrologers from Canada, who lives in Australia, I was chatting with him and Melanie yesterday, and his favorite expression is, if you are anticipating waiting for the transit to happen, you're not participating in it. And I think
Very
that's
nice,
fabulous.
very nice.
And it
Yeah.
reminds me so much for, if you know something's coming up and that's the season, the time, the timing of it, prepare for it, honor it, use it,
Yeah.
instead of waiting around saying, well, astrology doesn't work or my chart doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
Be on the lookout, engage, get involved. And that's the Aries in me, to try to get people involved. So if somebody says, uh, am I going to get married this year? Well, there are lots of questions to ask, like, are you with somebody? Do you want to be married? Why? Are you looking for stability? Are you looking for love? There are many other important questions rather than simply saying yes or no. And some astrologers to be very clear about saying yes or no, and they'll look at it but the way that I do it now is to say, I've no idea. That's up to you, who you meet. You could spend the next year offline, away from everybody, your choice. But I can give you the best dates to go looking, or the best dates when things may come to the fore, or when that's
Yeah.
highlighted. And that's what astrology does best, is to give timing instead of promising anything. I think that's where astrologers' egos or their need for definites overrides the potential there of this period between mid-August and mid-September, whatever, is great for the following. Do it if you want to. If you're thinking that it's promising something, you're going to be missing out, and you're also misinterpreting the fact that we need to be engaged with the cosmos around us, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. When
Wow.
you say prediction, it's always, I mean, you were saying yes or no, but of course we are talking about the more natural astrology or forecast, but there is the horary part also that you are like, I mean, for me, it's like a horror. I mean, sometimes it's like you have to predict. I don't want to predict, but you need an answer. And what do you say about that?
It's true, yes. With horary astrology, for those that don't know what that is, that's the art of answering questions using the chart of the moment. And there are different techniques, of course. It's got an enormous history. And I resisted horary astrology for years because I saw it as sort of anti-Aries in that way, of doing, it's telling you what's happening rather than you making it happen. But then I went to a couple of courses with Deborah Holding, who's a brilliant astrologer who adds the modern and the psychological with the horary. I've also hosted through the LSA, Deborah, but many other people. And in reality, Deborah did it best, in my opinion, and really got me excited about horary. And it still took a few years. And then Richard Swatton, who was teaching horary for me at the London School of Astrology, we started working together on it. And I was tiptoeing into it because I was saying to everyone, look, I don't know much. I'm learning, but I'm curious. And so, yes, I struggle sometimes with the definite answers of horary. And what I understand with horary, again, it is about participation. So we can see that it's a bit like tarot.
Mm,
Will I, will we get divorced? Will something happen? Well, the better question is, what can I do to make this relationship work?
Yeah.
Or what are the best bits of advice I can have to help me feel happier in my life in this area? So,
mhm,
me, a horary question will give you an answer, but it will also give you the clues and the path forward
mm,
how to get what it is you're asking about. I don't think it absolutely guarantees it. Sometimes you look at it and it seems very, very simple, very clear cut, but it's saying if you go down this path, this will come. This will be the way forward. So I've managed in a way to tweak the horary a little bit. So again, it's talking about engagement rather than a simple passive uh, prediction. Yeah. So that's how I see it. But yeah, I'm still learning and I'm still loving it. But I'm always a little bit cautious about predicting the future because it's about making it. And I've been an astrologer and palmist for over 35 years now, and
mm.
um, professional probably for about 30 of those years, maybe a little bit more. And I've made every mistake in the book, everything I've said. Uh, reading a hand, reading a chart, I've said too much. I've not said enough. I've not listened. There were things that you learn along the way. And if I could go back, I would undo those things, of course. But part of why I teach and love teaching is to show people, yeah, I've made every mistake. Don't do it like I did. Or, don't make that same mistake. So I'm a bit like a parent in that way, but people have to make their own mistakes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. I mean, with the horror, I mean, I think, yeah, that I'm a student of Sue Ward, but you and Richard are the inspirations for me to start the horror because you had this weekend uh, um, seminars in horary, and I was like amazed by. But I think that moment, I think you weren't running, I think, any organized course, etc. And then, and I was like Sue Ward, and that moment, I mean, I actually maybe it is my ignorance. I didn't know her, and everyone was like, who are more in astrology? They were like, wow, Sue Ward. I mean, that's Sue Ward. I mean, and then yeah, I became a student of her. But I'm still looking forward to your book with Richard. I think it's coming. It should be coming out soon, no? About the horror.
I need to sit down and finish, or start it and finish it. Richard written his part. I just need to add my part. It's been a busy year. But yes, yeah, I don't, I've met Sue once or twice, but I haven't learned from Sue. But again, there are some brilliant minds in astrology. And
Yeah.
when people think we are uh, easily influenced, they always say there's one born every minute with astrologers. Some of the most brilliant, intelligent, insightful people I've met are astrologers,
Mm.
and I've met a lot of people over the years, and I'm always in awe of their intelligence and their questioning nature. I always say if you want to stay young at heart and you want to grow into old age if you can, then you need two things. You either need vanity that keeps you young, or you need curiosity. I'm going to try and do a
Yeah.
little bit of both, and hopefully I'll have an opportunity to live to an old age and keep learning. But yes, yeah.
Yeah, gosh. Well, hopefully. Um, yeah, we need definitely need more of your contributions. So, but are you still teaching horary at the London School?
We do it once a year. So we've got a weekend happening similar to the one Terry mentioned
Hmm.
at the end of January. And by
Mm.
then the book will be out. I mean, it needs
Mm.
to. If not, I'm going to go in hiding. I've always got two or three books on the go. But
Yes.
taking over the recent the magazine, the Mountain Astrologer, recently, it's been a huge commitment. So
Yes.
yes, and I'm very good at. People always think that I work 24/7 because I do a lot of different things, but I'm very good with my time. So when I'm I'm doing it. I'm multitasking, maybe 5 or 6 different projects, if it's a slow week. And then um, and then I have time off. I just have
Yeah.
time off, and I'm very good at just switching off, having some time off, and that's probably the reason why I haven't burnt out or gone crazy in the last 35 years from astrology and from everything else. Is that I'm very good at just being a sun Venus and watching a bit of telly with some chocolate, that sort of thing.
But that's quite Sun Uranus as well, isn't it? I think the on-off thing, like the switching.
It is, and I'm a Mars Jupiter as well, on the MC, and
Okay.
the thing about Mars I learned is that Mars is on and off as well. Mars
Right.
Mars is either on the battlefield or being fed by Venus. Very chauvinistic, of course. But that energy of Mars is fully engaged or switched,
Mhm.
and
Right.
you can't run Mars 24/7. It's a
Sure.
bit like the Mercury energy. I'm always saying to people, I don't take my own advice, but I do say to people, guard your Mercury energy, your mental energy
Mhm.
carefully, because you could go through the morning, Instagram, TikTok, all of those things, and it just wears it uses up your Mercury energy.
Yeah.
And then you've got no time later to write creative stuff or
Mm.
to finish the emails that are important to you because you've already had that Mercury injection or
Mhm.
a sort of suction really of all your Mercury energy. So yeah, I try not to sort of browse for hours and hours on things. Very easy to get lost in that, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that sounds like really good advice. Yeah. So sort of going back a little bit. So you started at 16, you were already doing astrology, you went into the palmistry, and then how did it kind of continue from there? Where did you go? When did you start the London School of Astrology?
Oh, well,
Kind of start.
very, very briefly, I went to university after beginning to. When people say they're self-taught, nobody's self-taught.
No, they read books
No,
by other
of
people.
course, of course. So I never use that expression because just to be around people, just to have the books that I've got behind me that are all on astrology and all the magazines up there that I've written for and compiled. They're
Mm,
they're that's you know we learn from everybody and every source, and the way to keep learning is to keep listening to many, many different voices. So not to just be a fan of one astrologer or one type of astrology. But we're all guilty of having a favorite as well sometimes. So I went to university. I was teaching a bit of palmistry at university at a night time, and just really, I spent my 20s head down learning the craft. I published my first little book on birth data. It was called British Entertainers. That was when I was 24, so I was into self-publishing
mhm.
at that age, and ended up publishing other people's books. I published The 12 Houses by Howard Supporters, which had been published
Oh, okay.
already, but we republished it about 20 years ago, along with Sue Tompkins' book,
Hmm.
The Astrologer's Handbook. So I was involved in my 20s, publishing, preparing, learning. And because there are so many brilliant minds on my bookshelf, I didn't want to write an astrology book until I felt I had something different to say.
Mm,
Have
hmm.
an angle that I thought was useful. Otherwise, it's going to be sitting beside Liz Green, Robert Hand, House of Porter, Stephen Arroyo, all the brilliant minds, and it's going to look bad. And I don't want to look bad. It took me a while before I started writing astrology books. I've written 4 or 5 mini books, things like On the Midheaven and Mars and Venus and different things,
Hmm.
but probably about 4 or 5 astrology books and a couple of palmistry books as well. And then Sue Tompkins, who I published in the about 20 years ago. She started up the LSA in the year 2000. We've just celebrated 25
Okay.
years and didn't really want to. I mean, didn't really want to run a school. So within a couple of years, she had asked me if I would buy it. And so I've been running it now about 22 years. I can't believe I've run a school for 22 years just because I'm somebody that likes my freedom and to do many, many different things. And it has been I wouldn't say a burden in any way because It's fabulous. I never stop learning. I've met fabulous people through it,
Mm.
traveled the world because of the profile it's
Total.
given me, all sorts of things I'm very grateful for. But it's been a three-term year for 22 years,
Yeah.
where I'm organizing everything, managing the teachers, my own work, the students. That's a couple of people's job in one, and I've
Yeah.
been doing that for 22 years, along with everything else, the clients, the writing, the publishing, the and everything else, you know. But it's been 22 years, and I love it. I still love doing it. I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't. I think we astrologers tend to do what we love, thank goodness. And even if I always say to people, if you want to make a fortune, astrology is not going to bring that. It's not going to do that for you. It may take years before you even build a clientele or a regular
Mm.
wage that feels on a level to what you might have expected elsewhere. So it takes
Yeah.
time, and most astrologers are in it for the love of it. And uh, so, but luckily, I've been able to make it work on all levels. We have an online school in London. We have a school in China. We have a school in Japan.
Oh, wow.
Japan, yeah.
I didn't know
And
that.
yeah, and the China school is big, as you could
Okay.
imagine. The
Yes.
people in China. The first ever trip I took to China, the organizer said to me, "It's going to be a small group," and he was almost apologetic about it. And it was 400.
1,000 people.
It was 400 people. Yeah,
Oh, wow. Oh,
that
wow.
was that was a small group, and I was like, gulp.
Oh, gosh.
And it was in the Science Museum as well. So they put me in a fabulous place. But I thought, oh my goodness, okay, that's quite different from the 30
Yeah.
people I speak to in the class in London, you know. So it's been a great ride.
Wow.
Well,
Okay.
yeah,
That's,
yeah,
I mean, your energy is just phenomenal, and it just kind of is coming out for, it's so I
I
can
probably
imagine
need
this.
sugar. I probably need sugar. I should have had something to eat before I spoke to you. But no, I've been sick for the last week or so. I went to Romania 2 weeks ago to
Right.
first ever time there. Went to this really beautiful group of people
Hmm.
who were running events and they've had this association for many years, and it was great to see astrology in a very different country with a very
Mm.
different respect in many ways
Mm.
in the country. So I came back from there, but I also caught flu on the way back. So the energy's here because it's starting to come back. Yeah.
Right.
thank God. Uh, I was thinking about the Mountain Astrologer and
Mm.
the magazine, and when I said I have written to you, probably generally you are answering the emails of the LSA in any case. I mean, and there you were talking about like how the people apply, because it's different than the other journals or magazines, right? You have a much uh, like an academic type of approach when you are accepting the articles and etc. Can we say that,
Yeah.
because it's like there's a abstract period, and there is, it's all goes like that. Can you explain that a bit for us and for the people who are watching?
Yes. Do you mean in terms of writing for the
Yes,
magazine?
yes. When,
Yeah.
when, 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 for example, I come, I say that, okay, Frank, you know that I have a great idea, etc. But you will say that, okay, you have a great idea, because in the Mountain Astrologer magazine, you have to do that. Like, okay, put it in words, send a proposal,
Yeah.
etc. Right? Can you explain that process
Well,
maybe a bit?
yes, I think most magazines have that. The Mountain Astrologer has been around for almost 40 years, and
Yes.
it was known when Tem, who ran it for it was his baby, um, he ran it, and it was known for the high quality of articles, and they paid people as well, which
Hmm.
a lot of astrology magazines don't.
Right.
And so it had that, and it took me a very long time to write for it because I was
Mm.
nervous about being rejected. What if I've got a lovely idea and they don't like it or they think it's rubbish, you know? And I've been writing for a long time, but for about 10 years, and then I proposed something to them and they liked it, etc. So that was great.
Hmm.
But it took a bit of courage to do that because it had such a great name, and it was considered up there, really. And when we took it over at the beginning of this year, about March or April time, really, um, we just carried on the idea of send us a proposal, but we don't. We may like it, we may suggest something else, or we may just say write it and we'll take a look at it. So
Mhm.
we don't agree to anything until we've seen the final product, and that's I think that's a good idea
Yeah.
because just a bit like hiring an astrologer to give a talk. They might turn up and give something completely different from what they've offered. They
Mm.
might be distracted. They might be having a bad day when they're talking. And I think having been in publishing now since I guess the mid 1990s, so about 30 years, and self-publishing and with other publishers, etc. I know how important it is to structure what you want to say,
Mm.
know how to say it. Um, there are great astrologers, they're great writers, they're great teachers. And then there's this tiny little group of people that do all three well. But not everybody does all three of those well. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have some really inspirational teachers who teach very well. You have writers who can't teach, teachers that don't write very well. And in the middle, I'm always trying to find the people that can in the LSA and TMA,
Mm.
the people that can write a good article and teach you something as well in it.
Yeah.
So we have high standards, and there are sometimes I'm always, in the last few months when we've been running it, we've got some great articles coming up from people. But I really want the very best from people. And in the past with TMA, I used to do themed editions. They would come in. Tem would say, "Would you do an issue on whatever topic?" Or I would suggest a topic.
Hmm.
We'd go ahead and do it, and I would bring together the different writers. But sometimes you'd get things that are just completely off the mark, or what I call astrological navel gazing, where you're just
Right.
sort of obsessed with your own idea without thinking about how other people can learn from it,
Hmm.
how other people can. I mean, people want to be able to read something and then apply it, or
Mm.
see it in their own charts, in their own lives. And if you can't do that, uh, I think it shouldn't be published, really, generally. It might be an interesting piece, but it's got to have the reader in mind as well. Yeah.
Wow, that's really interesting. Yes, I really appreciate that approach actually, and I love the TMA, and I'm super glad that you've taken it over and you're bringing it all together. And yeah,
Thank
there's
you.
been some great
Well,
issues there, and
well,
I love the fact you're on Substack as well, so I can flick through stuff on that as well.
great. Thank you. Yeah, that's thanks to Stephanie. Stephanie is my right hand woman, right hand person, and she said, "Let's go on Substack." And I've got over 100 articles that I've written for the Astrological Journal, which is another
Mm.
well-known publication. And I said, "Let's start putting those up."
Hmm.
And so she's been arranging that and putting that up for me. But yeah, the TMA is now online. It's two different things. There are three issues a year with the subscription. So you get online videos, you get invitations. We're doing a webinar next month in November for writers, people who want to write
Hmm.
for astrology or anything. So there's lots of extras in there of videos, but also lots of articles. So it's multimedia online. You can print them off, you can download them, etc. But then we're also doing two or three what I'm calling collector's editions,
Okay.
collector's issues, where we're going to be printing them. They'll be available on Amazon. So very different
Right.
articles, but non-time specific. So they'll stay as a magazine that you can buy anytime, and it'll have a whole collection of different articles. But TMA, the way the magazine industry is, nothing's working. It's all down to people putting money in advertising. I went back to look at the possibility of having it back into bookstores like Barnes and Noble, and the terms are just they're not going to work for anybody who wants to try and make a living out of it. It just doesn't
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
So instead, I'm going down the Amazon route where we're getting Amazon to publish it through Kindle,
Yeah.
KDP. People
Yeah.
can have it sent to them directly. Amazon can do the posting instead of me. Uh,
Yes.
so I'm
Yeah,
trying to
that's
make life easier so I can focus on the material. But it's a shame because a lot of people want the hard copy. We're going to
Mm.
give them that, but it will be in uh, an issue that is not time specific. So there are no October horoscopes, no December
okay.
horoscopes, because
Yeah.
they run
Okay.
out, they become old, and then half the magazine is old and not relevant.
Yeah.
So the online has the horoscopes, but the printed ones will have articles and interviews that are hopefully timeless, if you can call them that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I think that that's a good idea, and I completely understand what you're saying about the print versions having sort of self-published myself novels and things. But there's also something else, which is that I was reading the other day, and that might have been on Substack, where somebody said that, you absolutely have to keep paper books because, come the revolution, when the world collapses and everything, all the rest of the stuff's going to be wiped out. And these paper books are going to be the precious things that people find in lofts and attics. And, that's where the information is people are going to be finding it and coming out into
Well,
so
Yeah.
I
that's what
hadn't thought of it like that. I hadn't thought of the sort of the world ending and no
yes.
information being
I do not think of
no,
that.
and the Kindle not working anymore. No, I hadn't thought of that. But I'm not a Kindle person anyway. I'm a book person, so
Yes.
I will go on
I'm
holiday.
also,
With books.
I'm
Yeah,
also,
I love the
yeah.
feel of books. My
Yeah.
books all look like they've never been read because I look after my books. If I'm daring enough, I might take a copy and highlight it and do something with it, but that's very rare. But
Yes.
generally, my books look brand new and untouched. So no, I'm a big fan of the real thing. And I
Mm.
have to say, without sounding patronizing, when I travel through London, you get on a train and you see a young person reading a book. You want to stand up and applaud, you know. You do. You do. Instead of the phone, instead of something else, um, just somebody engaged, a young person engaged in a book is one of the, like, I want to take pictures, but that would be creepy, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, I just think it's a joy to behold that people are
Yeah.
still reading, and they're not just square-eyed from Instagram and Facebook and all of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
So what is
So,
your take then about the social media before we wrap up?
yeah.
I mean, like, because it's, I think, or everything. I mean, like, because it's like a must and not must. It's like there is a big
Mm.
dilemma about the social media. I mean, you have to be there, but actually, it's at least for me annoying. I'm there, but I'm annoyed of being there sometimes. So it's like, what is your intake about it?
Um, it's yeah, it's something we have to put up with, and we can utilize, of course. I'm I have a I'm obviously getting old. I'm 52 at the moment. I'm getting old in the sense that not physically, although I feel it sometimes, but the idea that I get irritated by the rubbish that comes out on social media, particularly on astrology.
Yeah.
And I know it's often well-meaning, but it's almost as though people have to record a video. This is the most important aspect of the year. Pay attention. And it isn't. It's an aspect that's one of maybe 30 or 40, but it's for clickbait, it's for engagement, it's I want likes, I want to earn my money from it. And respect to anybody that does that, do it. If that's your way of doing it, do it. But I get tired of the superficiality of the astrology. And
Mm.
it also ends up reverberating where people don't know the difference between a moon transit and a Pluto transit, for instance,
Yes.
because they've never seen an ephemeris. They've never looked through it and understood the differences between
Mm.
the timings of these things. So I think it's great as an introduction to get people excited, but the level of some of the big social influencers on astrology. When somebody says to me, "You must watch them," and I watch them, and I so want them to be really bright and gifted, and telling me something new. And often what I get is a standard sort of standard Jupiter in Cancer means the following, and it's disappointing. And I yeah, I think it's junk food. It's junk food
Yes.
a lot of the time. And I would love it not to be. Stephanie posts for me on Instagram different quotes, different things from books, and all of that. But the
She's
idea of
doing a great job, by the way. She's
oh,
doing
thank
a
you.
great job. I love the post on Instagram. I
Oh,
mean,
she's
like today I
fabulous.
was showing Alison. I screenshot that because there is something about Jupiter
Yes,
because
that's true.
that was very, very, very nice. So I mean, like I love it. I mean, like it's
Thank you.
really
No, she's
like
doing a great job.
short and to the point. I mean, it's like there's nothing like to, and it's like there. Two words explains everything.
Thank you. Well, I've done weekly horoscopes before. I've done monthlies for magazines over the years, and it's a brain drain, yeah. And to sit there and to write horoscopes for each of the 12 signs every day, I don't know how anybody does it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it would be mind-numbing. I think there's a tremendous talent there to be able to do it, but for me, oh my goodness, I'd go crazy. And also, you end up talking about practically nothing happening that day and just making it up. Maybe. I don't know. So I think there are obviously a lot of good qualified astrologers out there who are good at what they do. But there's a lot of junk food and people don't know the difference. It's a bit like the first astrology book we buy or the first book on tarot. It's often rubbish, but it's the one that gets us in.
Mm.
And remember later,
Yeah.
we wouldn't ever recommend it, but we've just picked it up because it was in a secondhand bookstore or somebody's given it away, and yet it gets us involved. And then later we find the gems and the great writers of astrology, as I've mentioned earlier. So yes, yeah.
So I've just got one last question, really, which is sort of where do you see yourself going then? You've got all these projects on the go, sort of which are you prioritizing at the moment? What are you enjoying the most? What do you really want to get into?
Yeah, very
Goodness. Okay. Well, the funny thing is, on my website, I have a list of a chronology of all the things I've done, or most of the
yeah,
things I've
yeah,
done.
yeah.
And I do that because I can't remember. And sometimes somebody will say to me, "Oh, can you get us a new biography for an upcoming conference?" I have to go back and have a look because I'm always doing something new. I can't, there's a new project that's coming out in a month or two. I signed an NDA, so I can't tell you about it because this might come out before it. But it's using astrology in a really beautiful way of things that you can buy. So I'll tell you about it nearer the time. It's really lovely. It's really lovely. And so I'm always doing something interesting, and I
Hmm.
tend to accept the jobs that are interesting that I like to do, or
Mm.
new people
Okay.
that I like to meet, like you two. And
Thank you.
and but the magazine is the priority for the next couple of years. I said I would
Yeah.
give it 3 years to see where it sat with me and uh, the yeah, just to see what I want to do with it, really. The school is always the priority because there's always students who are signing up and all year round, and then we have the tutorials from October to June. Um, I've got books I want to write. That horror book you reminded me of, Terry. Thank you. And lots of other things. I love doing fundraisers. We're doing a fundraiser, another
Yes,
one. We did one recently for breast cancer. We're doing another
yeah.
one for breast cancer next week, but that might be last week, depending on when you publish this. And I love the fact that the school is popular and we've got a lot of people on board. And I'm not somebody that's always looking for more money. Yeah, I'm looking for more challenges. So when the school brings in money, my attitude is let's use that and give it to people who need it. So we
Yeah,
do have a lot of fundraisers. We've raised
yeah.
60, 70,000 pound maybe in the last few years.
Mm.
Even having people like Boy George come in. I don't know if you know we had Boy George
I
come.
I I had that recording. I mean,
Ah,
that's the first time I think I got registered to LSA's site
ah,
because etc. And then I watched it. It was also another
it
wonderful.
was
Yeah,
it was
it
fun.
was very great.
I was so nervous. He was, he can be edgy if he's upset, and he was lovely. And I was very nervous because he's a Gemini with a lot of Cancer, and you never know who you're going to get.
Yes.
I've seen people rub him up the wrong way, and he was delightful and very generous with his time. And so we've done lots of different fundraisers. And I wrote a book a few years ago for a children's hospice up in Liverpool called Clare House, and managed to raise about £5,000 for them. So those things motivate me because
Hmm.
I don't want to give to a dog foundation that gets £20 million a year. I want to give to smaller organizations
Hmm.
that where the people are there and it's not being given to somebody who takes a check of, £500,000 a year for just being the chairman. So I'm a bit careful about who I fundraise for. But it's great. It's given me new life. And it was when my Jupiter, I have, depending on the house system, I've either got Jupiter in the eighth or the ninth, depending on how you look at it. I use equal houses, but so when it went
Love
retrograde,
equal house.
Oh, yeah, we love it.
it,
Yes.
I'm not a fan of a whole sign because I love the ascendant descendant as
So
a
do I.
beginning. But anyway, whatever people choose, it's up to them. But what was I talking about? I've lost my thread.
Jupiter 8,
Jupiter,
9,
thank
equal
you. Yeah.
house.
So Jupiter went retrograde by progression, and I don't look at progressions much. I'm more of a solar arc direction person. But when Jupiter went retrograde, I thought, what can I do? And it went retrograde in Aquarius on my Mars in the eighth house. And I thought, what a great way to give back, using the community, using the school to
Yeah.
start giving back. And instead of giving back to, I mean, we have scholarships as well, but instead of giving back to the school, which might be questionable, and I didn't want anything that could be questioned, giving back to independent people that we're not connected to.
Hmm.
That's important for me. So those are the things. You asked for one, I gave you about five.
Yes. I did notice that. I thought, okay, okay. This guy is never just one thing. It's
No, no, Gemini rising, I'm always juggling something.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
enjoying it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I noticed, despite talking about influencers and things, you've engaged with one or two of those in TMA. I mean, you've got Colin Bedell, for instance, who's written for you, who's I mean, really big on Instagram, but is also a fantastic astrologer. So it's not that you're excluding them in any sense. They're
No,
definitely.
no. I really wanted to. We've got an Astro Influencers page on the
Mhm.
PMA. Colin's coming up. We're doing uh, a it's got a fabulous cover of twins, and
Yeah, I've got that in front of
yeah,
me. Yeah,
it just happens that most of the writers, like contributors that Lynn Bell, Colin, a few others, even Karen Hammack Azondag, they've got either the sun or moon in Gemini. So I thought it would be great to put them all in there, coming along. So yeah, no, definitely, I want to make it clear that the influencers are not all superficial by any means.
Mhm. Yeah,
When you
sure.
come across one that's doing great work, and using that to educate rather than
Yeah,
just for clickbait. They're the people I'm interested in. They're the people that are going to take astrology into the next decade and beyond.
definitely.
So yeah, and I've met Colin a couple of times. I haven't seen him lecture yet, but he's written me a great piece, and I've asked him to write more. So yeah.
Hmm. So he's a twin, isn't he? That's why I came in contact with him because he came to I did a lecture at the AA on twins, which he came to, and I said, "Oh, you're a twin. That's amazing." Yeah,
Oh, I didn't know that. I know he was a
yeah,
Gemini, but I
yeah,
didn't know he's a twin. Uh,
yeah, as
okay,
well.
okay,
Yeah.
oh, that's
So
interesting.
even more sort of apt that he's in that edition. Yeah.
And there seem to be a lot of Geminis who are twins. I'm sure it's not the case. I'm sure it's across the board, but it just seems to be the ones that I meet have Sun, Moon, or Ascendant in Gemini. They tend to be facing that quite literally. I don't. What have you found, Alison?
Well, I think it's really interesting because not so much that lots of Geminis are twins, but one thing is that my daughter has a Gemini rising moon. She's not a Gemini ascendant, but it rules the 11th, Taurus rising, and all her friends are twins. She has so many twin friends.
Okay.
It's really funny.
But you've got a lot of research that you can tap into.
I've been looking more actually at how twins are different. That's what's really interested me and how charts they have their own charts which show different life outcomes. That's what's been my thing, because people are like, oh, twins, they astrology can't be right because twins are,
It's the first objection, isn't it, from
yeah,
people? And
yeah.
yeah, no, I'd love to do something on that. If you're interested in writing some of that down, please send it.
Okay, I will definitely look into that.
Because that issue is going to be focused in some way on twins or Gemini people, as well. So that sounds perfect. But see how you're going. I'm sure you got a lot on your plate as well.
Okay.
Kim. Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Frank, for being with us today.
That's okay. That
And
was a
thank
quick
you
hour, wasn't it?
yeah, it's an hour already. It's
Amazing.
like you gone with the wind, and it was really lovely to meet you, not even in person, but even online. I think for me, I have been inspired by your work in different parts. I have been following LSA and your work all the time. So I
Thank you.
think it was an honor for me to meet you. And thank you very much. And I hope that our ways coincide or intersect at a point in the future once
I'm sure
again,
they will.
Alison.
I'm sure they will.
Yes, thank you very much. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you both. Great to meet you. And yeah, look forward to seeing more of your videos as well soon.
Thanks very much,
Thank you.
Frank.
Okay, thank you. Bye bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for inviting me.